A hot summer day, one hot summer day, Jay and his friends were playing outside. The sun shined down on Jay and his friends as they kicked a soccer ball back and forth. Soccer was Jay's favorite sport to play. Almost every day, Jay would invite his friends from his neighborhood to come out and play soccer in the street. Jay dreamed of one day being a professional soccer player. He imagined shooting a goal and hearing the roar of thousands of people as they cheered his name throughout the soccer stadium. Jay knew it would require a lot of practice if he wished to make his dream a reality. One day, as the sun was beaming down on the street where Jay and his friends played earlier, an ice cream truck approached. As soon as Jay heard the ice cream truck's music playing, he ran outside his house with $2 in his hand. Jay looked around to see where the ice cream truck was. As soon as he spotted it down the street, he bolted towards it. Jay's friends had arrived first and were already asking the ice cream man for a cone of their favorite flavor of ice cream. This gave Jay time to think about what flavor to get. Should I get chocolate or vanilla? Jay asked himself. What's it going to be, son? The ice cream man asked Jay when he noticed he was the last kid standing without an ice cream cone. I'll have pistachio, please, Jay responded after some hesitation. This summer had turned out to be the best so far for Jay. Tomorrow he would play soccer once more, and if the ice cream truck came around, he would ask his parents for another $2. Jay was not looking forward to starting his school year in 2 weeks. Hungry Abel one day. Abel opened his refrigerator and gasped when he noticed there wasn't anything in there. Who ate all the food? Abel asked his brother Mel, who was in the living room sitting down on the couch watching cartoons. You probably woke up in the middle of the night and ate it all, Mel humorously responded. Abel was not amused. His stomach was growling and he had no time for Mel's childish quips. I'm so hungry. I could eat a horse, Abel proclaimed. I bet you can easily eat 2, Mel jokingly said. You are so funny, Abel sarcastically replied. Abel thought of ordering a pepperoni pizza by phone, but soon realized he had only $5. He needed $10 to make the purchase. He was short by $5. Abel asked his brother if he could pitch in for the rest, but he had no cash. Are you even hungry? Abel asked Mel. I already ate, Mel said. This made Abel jealous and a bit angry. What did you eat? Abel inquired. With furrowed brows, a $10 pizza, Mel casually replied. You must be kidding, Abel said, almost yelling. Mel just sat there watching a recording of an episode from The Simpsons. When is Mom coming back? Abel asked Mel. I don't know, he replied. Abel could now only hope that his mom would come to the rescue and bring a large fresh pizza from Pizza Mountain. Abel plopped down next to Mel on the couch and started watching television with him. They both laughed out loud at the cartoon's funny characters. Abel was enjoying himself so much that he had forgotten that he was hungry. Then commercials began playing. Abel's stomach started calling for food again. I'm going to starve to death, Abel said as the front door to his house started opening. I'm back and I brought pizza, Abel's mom said as she came in through the door. Abel could not wait to get his hands on the pizza. Joel's school semester was ending soon, but he still had not found a job to keep him busy over the summer vacation. This wasn't the only reason Joel wanted a job. He had been taking the bus to school for over a year already. He was ready to start driving to school. All of his friends had been driving since the age of 18, and Joel felt like he was left behind. He had calculated the math and figured it would take him 2 months of working for him to be able to afford a used vehicle, or 1 month if he worked full-time. Joel had it all planned out. The only problem was finding steady employment. Joel felt like he had applied everywhere possible. He had walked into several fast food restaurants. He had stepped in countless coffee shops. He had visited various retail stores and supermarkets. Joel went around shaking the hands of managers. Introducing himself as a college student who was interested in working, Joel mingled with employees and talked to frequent customers in hopes of getting some recognition or even a piece of advice. After submitting application after application, it seemed like he would never get hired. Joel felt like giving up hope, but then one afternoon, Joel received a call for an interview. Joel jumped for joy when he discovered the interview was for a job working at a bookstore. Joel was so determined to get the job that he was hired right after his interview. He had greatly impressed the manager, who felt he was the perfect candidate for the job. Everything was going according to his plan. Soon he had enough money saved up to buy the car he had dreamed of. Valerie's bus trip riding the bus is as easy as pie. The bus driver is there to answer any questions passengers may have, and it only costs $1.50. These were the things Valerie had heard from all her friends about public transportation. She had never ridden on the bus alone before. This was about to change in 15 minutes as she stood waiting at the bus stop, at the corner of Atlantic Avenue and 61th Street. Valerie had just turned 15 and was ready to start riding the bus on her own. Valerie's mom had sent her to Grandma's house for a weekend stay. She had packed all her belongings in a backpack and was dressed in her lucky outfit in case she crossed any black cats. She was heading to the city of Montebello where her grandmother lived. Her heart began racing when she saw the number 260 bus approaching in the distance. She looked around to see if she was alone. But there wasn't anyone else waiting for the bus. She was all alone. Come on. You can do this, Valerie said to herself. She remembered she and her mother had taken the same bus to her grandma's house the dozens of times. It's just like before, except Mom is not here, Valerie said, trying to ease herself. The bus finally came to a halt at its stop, and its doors opened in front of Valerie. She took a deep breath, looked at the bus driver, and stepped inside. Valerie put the money into the slot and greeted the bus driver. She then proceeded to the back of the bus and quickly sat down next to an elderly woman. The scariest part was over. Now all I have to do is sit and wait until I reach my destination, said Valerie to herself. Don't forget to pull the cord, a familiar voice said in her head. Studying for the big test Monday was the day of the big test. Luella had 3 days left to study. She knew she had to study for at least 3 hours per day in the next couple of days if she hoped to get the grade she wanted. Luella needed to score at least a 90% on her test in order to pass her algebra class with an A. The stakes were high for Luella. She had attended every lecture this semester. She had jotted down notes upon notes to take home and study. She had even sat in a few tutoring sessions after class. After turning in all her homework and passing all her quizzes, Luella still felt like she could fail her final test. After all, it was cumulative, meaning the test would test her on everything she had learned. Luella knew what she had to do. It was time to buckle down and study like there was no tomorrow. Motivated and determined, Luella sat at her desk and studied for at least 3 hours for the next 3 days. By the time the night before the test came, Luella felt confident that she would do well. Luella woke up that Monday morning with a grin on her face. She had dreamed of taking the test. In the dream, she passed her test with an A. It was up to Luella to make her dream come true that Monday morning. Luella was assured she would. She knew all that studying was about to pay off as she walked into her classroom and sat down at her desk. Nothing can go wrong, Luella said to herself. She was right. Luella not only breezed through all the math problems, but was the first person to finish in her class. Luella knew she could do it. It was of no surprise when she discovered the grade she received. It was an A+. Jenny's first pet's one. Jenny had always wanted a pet of her own. She wanted something to take care of, someone to be there whenever she came back home, and most of all, an animal to be best friends with. Jenny would constantly ask her dad to buy her a pet, but her dad always refused. Jenny's dad knew having a pet was a big responsibility. He did not think Jenny was ready to own a pet at 10 years old. And that was exactly what he told her when she asked for one. "When will I be ready?" Jenny asked one day. "Wait until you're 12, Jenny's dad replied. This was good news for Jenny. All she had to do now was to be patient. 2 years had passed. Jenny had been counting down the days on her calendar. The morning of her 12th birthday. Jenny jumped on her dad's bed and immediately reminded him of what he had said 2 years ago. "Have you decided on what pet to get?" Jenny's dad asked. Jenny could not respond. She had not made up her mind on what kind of pet she wanted. "Let me think about it," she said and ran to her room. Jenny took into consideration all the pets she could imagine. She imagined a white fluffy cat that she named Tabby, or a large bright golden retriever that she'd name Yellow and play frisbee with in the afternoons. She imagined owning colorful macaw that she'd name Polly and have conversations with whenever she felt lonely. After an hour of weighing in the options, Jenny had made up her mind. Jenny's dad was surprised when he found out what pet his daughter had chosen. "I want a horse," she declared when she walked back into her dad's bedroom. "How about something a little less expensive?" he said to Jenny. "A pony," she cleverly replied. "Let's go to the pet shop," Jenny's dad said. Jenny's first pets to it was for a clock when Jenny and her dad arrived at the pet shop on Slauson Avenue. The name of the pet shop was Pet Wonders. Jenny couldn't contain her excitement and yipped as she and her dad exited the car. Jenny's dad smiled at the sight of her thrilled daughter. He remembered his own first pet. It was a Chihuahua named Taco. He wondered if Pet Wonders was selling any Chihuahuas. Jenny and her dad were greeted by a short and balding man who smelled like dog food. "Hello. How can I help you?" "Guys, today," the man said, "we're here to buy a pony." Jenny exclaimed to the man, "Actually, we're here to browse," Jenny's dad said right after. "Let me know when you're ready to make a purchase," the man replied. Jenny and her dad proceeded to look through the aisles. "What do you think of these?" Jenny asked her dad. "They're too small," she said. Jenny saw a variety of colorful fishes. "What about these?" Jenny, her dad asked. "They're too slimy," said Jenny. Jenny came across snakes and turtles. "Would you like one of these?" asked her dad. "I don't think so," Jenny responded. 1 hour passed and Jenny still had not made up her mind on which animal to choose. Jenny and her dad finally got around to see the cats and dogs. "It's either one or the other," Jenny's dad said, pointing to the cats and dogs. Jenny had to think long and hard on which pet to get. After what seemed like an eternity, Jenny looked up at her dad and said, "I can't choose one." Her dad paused for a minute, smiled, and said to her, "Then choose two." Jenny went home with a white cat and a black dog, which were the best birthday presents she had ever received. Surfing was Jeffrey's favorite pastime. Every weekend, Jeffrey and his best friend Chad would head to Santa Monica Beach, where they would surf big waves. California was the perfect place to live if you were a surfer. The sunny sky and nice temperature made it an ideal place for surfing. Best of all, California mostly maintains this kind of nice weather throughout the year. Jeffrey and Chad were grateful to be surfers in California and not in Iceland, while their other friends were skateboarding and rollerblading. Jeffrey and Chad were at the beach surfing the day away. Jeffrey was 15 years old when he first learned how to surf. Chad was 2 years younger when he started learning. They both had met at a surfing competition. Jeffrey was 18 and Chad 16 at the time of the competition. Despite being rivals at first, Jeffrey and Chad soon became buddies after the competition, now 21 and 19. Jeffrey and Chad had become the best surfers on the West Coast. Their medals and trophies were proof of this. There wasn't anything more satisfying in the world than surfing the waters. As the sun beamed from above and the wind blew by, surfing was an exhilarating and incredible experience. It was also a great stress reliever. Jeffrey and Chad felt as if they were on top of the world when surfing. Nothing else mattered when you were in the midst of a barrel ride. Jeffrey and Chad knew that surfing for them would be a lifelong passion. The beach was a great place to be at. This was especially true in the summer when pretty girls would gather on the weekends, bonfires would line the shores at night, and vendors and artists would attract visitors to purchase their wares. There was never a dull moment while at the beach. But if it wasn't for the waters, Jeffrey and Chad would have no reason to go to the beach. Jane the living doll there once was a little living doll. She lived inside a dollhouse that was placed in the corner of a little girl's room. The doll's name was Jane and the little girl's was Diana. No one else knows that Jane can talk and breathe like anyone else. Diana and Jane were best friends. It was a secret between Jane and Diana. Jane and Diana would play together every day. Sometimes they would play within the dollhouse. They liked watching movies, playing hide and seek, and painting. They also liked playing outside with toy cars and drawing with chalk on the ground, since Diana was far too big and Jane far too small. They could not play hide and seek and run over long distances. Instead, they enjoyed playing their own version of hide and seek. When they played, it would have to be inside a small room. Jane was always the one to hide since it was easy for her to do so. One day, it was Diana's birthday, and she had several of classmates from school come over to celebrate. Jane stayed hidden from plain sight in Diana's room. At one point, things became rowdy among some of the boys and girls, and they began to chase each other around the house. Then a few of them entered Diana's room and began invading her things. One of the boys got a hold of Jane, who was in her dollhouse, and started to toss and play catch with her among the boys. Then Diana came into the room and took notice of what was happening to Jane, and immediately yelled for them to stop. They put Jane back down. Jane was so frightened but relieved to be saved. "Get out!" Diana screamed. After everybody left, Diana lifted up Jane and asked her if she was okay. Diana was happy to see that Jane was in one piece. It would be the last time that Diana would bring anyone over to play. This secret was too great to risk its discovery. Nobody could ever know of Jane the living doll. An emergency Amisa was a single mother who worked from home tutoring students. She liked this job because it allowed her to stay home with her own little daughter Nimisha. Amisa saw all her clients at her kitchen table. She picked the kitchen table because from there she could watch her daughter, who usually stayed in the living room. Nimisha usually stayed in the living room when her mother was working with another student. One afternoon, though, Nimisha felt so thirsty. She had to get into the kitchen to get a drink. "Mom, can I please have a drink?" Nimisha asked. Amisa was annoyed. She was in the middle of a lesson. "Yes, but you have to serve yourself because I'm working," Amisa said. Nimisha pulled a step stool up to the kitchen cabinet and stood on it. She opened the kitchen cabinet and reached up to the top shelf to get a blue plastic cup. Then she slipped. Nimisha let out a huge scream. When Amisa got up to see what was wrong, she saw that her daughter's hand had slipped and the tongs of a large serving fork had gone through Nimisha's finger. Nimisha was crying. Amisa was scared. She had her client go home early and was going to rush her daughter to the hospital. She didn't want to try and pull the fork out herself because she was worried that she might make the situation worse. Nimisha lived for blocks from the hospital. She felt it was faster to walk to the hospital than call and wait for an ambulance. It was very cold outside, and Amisa couldn't put a coat on her daughter when she had a huge serving fork protruding from one of her fingers. There was only one problem. Amisa wrapped a blanket around her child and together they quickly walked to the hospital. "My daughter has a fork stuck in her finger," Amisa yelled as she entered the emergency room. Disappearance of a Lego Mike was having a beer in the living room one evening. While watching a football game, his 5-year-old son Rob was playing with Legos on the floor. "Hey, Dad, bet I can make one of these Legos disappear," Rob told his dad. Mike was only half paying attention to his son since his favorite team was playing. Mike absent-mindedly answered. "Tada, I made it disappear," Rob said proudly. Mike asked his son what his secret was. "A magician never tells," Rob said while tapping his nose. "Guess, Daddy, guess," Rob encouraged. Mike shrugged his shoulders. Mike first guessed the Lego was in his son's pocket. He was wrong. Then Mike guessed that the Lego was in his son's sock. That too was a wrong guess. Mike gave up. "It's in my nose, Dad," Rob proudly declared. Mike spit out his beard and rushed to look up his son's nose. He couldn't see anything up there. He went to the kitchen junk drawer and took out a small flashlight. Mike looked up his son's nose again. He still couldn't see the bright yellow Lego piece. "Are you sure it's up there?" Mike asked his son. Rob nodded. "Does it hurt?" Mike asked. Rob shook his head. Mike didn't want to stick anything up his son's nose to try and take out the mini toy brick. He was scared he would push the Lego up higher and hurt his son. "I guess we have to go to the hospital," Mike told his son. Rob looked scared. It was a short drive to the hospital emergency room. Mike felt like the most negligent dad in the world when he told the triage nurse. "The reason for the visit, my son has a Lego stuck up his left nostril," Mike said in a low voice. Drought-resistant plants. Hannah was worried about the plants in her garden. Her state recently declared a drought and her plants were showing that they missed the rain. Her plants were all dead or dying. Their leaves were brown and dry. Even the small patch of grass in front of her house was drying up because of the lack of rain and the overall shortage of water. Hannah didn't want to give up on her garden. She loved spending time in her yard. She loved working with her hands in the dirt. She loved watering the plants and watching. Week by week, her hard work paid off. From a small seed in the soil, she grew flowers and herbs. This season, though, was a bust. She began to do some research on the internet on drought-resistant plants, which are plants that would do all right in full sun and without regular water. It turned out there were quite a few plants that were drought-resistant through her internet search. Hannah even found a website for a place that was selling native plants, which were grown naturally from her climate. Hannah laughed at the name, though. It was called a nursery. Hannah always thought a nursery was a bedroom for a newborn baby or a very young child, not a place to buy plants. The more she thought about it, though, the more it made sense. Going to a nursery was like going to get a baby. Except in this case, the baby was a plant she would bring home. Hannah drove 30 minutes to get to the nursery, which had a whole section of drought-resistant plants. She walked up and down the outdoor aisles, carefully considering her options. Then she stopped in front of a small seedling that was just flowering. "I found my baby," she thought. Facebook friends. Catherine loved Facebook. With Facebook, she could keep in contact with her family no matter how far away they were. She could see photographs of her cousins and read status updates from her aunts and uncles. With Facebook, she could keep her relatives up to date on what she was doing. With a few taps on the keyboard and hitting the send button, she could tell a dozen or more people about her new job. She could also send pictures so that they wouldn't worry that she wasn't eating enough or was unhealthy. Another thing Catherine loved about Facebook was that she didn't have to think about time zones when updating family. Whenever she called her parents or other relatives, she always had to think about the time difference so that she wouldn't wake someone up or call when she knew they were at church. Facebook was so convenient. Another thing happened when Catherine joined Facebook, though. Some people she went to high school with started to add her as a friend. At first, this didn't bother her. She loved learning about the success of people she knew when she was just a teenager. She loved finding out people were getting married, having babies, and traveling. Soon, however, Catherine found herself comparing herself to the people she was reading about on Facebook. It began to make her feel bad that some people seemed to be doing so much better than she was. They had better jobs, nicer clothes, and cuter boyfriends. She was also spending a lot of time on Facebook. It took a lot of time and energy to keep up with everyone's status updates. She looked at the list of over 500 friends she had on Facebook and realized some of them were not really friends at all. Catherine started to think. Service animals. Jose Luis was taking the train to work one day when he noticed a woman with a big German Shepherd getting on the train. This made him nervous. What if that dog attacked someone? Jose Luis didn't know that people could bring pets with them onto trains. It seemed unsafe. He stepped closer to the dog. The German Shepherd seemed friendly enough. Just as he put out his hand to pet the dog, the woman stopped him. "Please don't pet him. He's working," the lady told him. Jose Luis didn't understand. The woman explained that she was blind and that the dog Hampton acted as her eyes, helping her navigate her way around the city. The woman pointed out the special vest that Hampton was wearing. The vest was printed with the word service animal. Jose Luis had never heard of service animals before. Service animals like Hampton are allowed into public places that most pets are not. Hampton is more than a pet. He helps me be self-sufficient and do the things that I need to do in the city, the woman explained. The woman also told Jose Luis that service animals had to go through special training so that they learn how to behave in public places and do not get distracted. People need to help too, though. By not petting him, the woman added. The woman continued to explain that service animals do not just help the blind. Some animals act as therapy animals. Therapy animals go into hospitals and nursing homes. These animals lower the stress levels of people who are very sick or who have just had operations. They also encourage people to recover. Therapy animals are especially popular in children's hospitals. Dogs really can be man's best friends. Underground Music Michelle was tired after a long day at work. She just wanted to get home, order a pizza for dinner, and go to bed. As she sat on the train home, she closed her eyes. Suddenly, she heard music. It was a harmonica playing a sad song. It sounded like a blues song. She opened her eyes to look where the sound was coming from. Was it from someone's iPod with the volume up loud? The sound was coming from a man leaning against the subway doors playing a harmonica. When he finished playing the song, he walked up and down the aisles with a cup in his hand asking for tips. Michelle didn't feel like this was fair. While the music wasn't unpleasant, it's not like she had a choice. She was forced to listen to it since she has to take the train home from work. Now he was asking to be paid by the people being forced to listen. He had some nerve. Michelle didn't give the man any money. Some of her fellow commuters did drop a few coins in the man's cup. You shouldn't encourage that, Michelle told one of her fellow commuters after he dropped some change in the man's cup. I don't even think it as legal for him to play music in the train and ask for money, Michelle said. She then scanned the advertisements and notices inside the train car. Sure enough, she found a sign that said playing music and soliciting was not allowed and that there would be a fine for people caught by the police. When the harmonica player passed by Michelle and extended his cup out so he could put in some change, she pointed to the sign. The harmonica player shrugged his shoulders. We all have to make a living, lady, he said. Summer programs for kids' school was over for the year. This meant that the school's after-school program, which kept Adriana's daughter June in school until she was done with work, was also over. The after-school program was convenient because June didn't have to leave the school. Adriana didn't have to worry about her daughter being home alone. The after-school program also made sure that June did her homework. This made Adriana's job as a single mother so much easier. All she had to worry about when she picked her daughter up from school was dinner. One of the best things about the after-school program was the cost. It only cost $30 a month. The school did not offer a summer program. Adriana did not have a summer vacation from work, so she needed to find a program that would watch June while she was working. Hiring a private babysitter was too expensive. Another mom from June's school gave Adriana information about a local recreational center that was offering a summer program for school-age kids. The program was not as expensive as other summer camp programs, but was more expensive than after-school costs, though. Adriana didn't know how she could afford the program. The summer program cost $50 per week. June didn't understand the sacrifices her mother had to make for her. She was just excited to attend the summer program. She had never been in summer camp before. June was especially excited because her friends would be there with her. Sometimes summer was boring, especially since her mom worked all day. June heard there would be games and crafts. She was going to make something nice for her mom to thank her. Special education. Emma felt really bad when someone from her daughter Jessica's school informed her that Jessica needed special education services. Emma felt like she had failed as a mother. It was true that Jessica was always delayed when it came to learning to talk and walk. Emma just thought that her child was different. Every child develops at its own rate. Jessica was 5 years old now, but still was not speaking in complete sentences. Jessica would not be attending a regular kindergarten in a regular school. Instead, she would be attending kindergarten in a special education school. While this bothered Emma at first, she soon learned to appreciate the school. Jessica had a specialized learning plan called an NDIV, Dualized Education Plan, or IEP. This plan set up specific goals for Jessica, like learning how to feed herself. Jessica also received a lot of individual attention. Instead of her being in a classroom with 20 students, there were only 8 students in her class. All of these students also were delayed like Jessica. In addition, the class had teacher's assistants to help the classroom teacher. The special education school also scheduled speech therapy sessions for Jessica. Once a day, a specialist would come in and work with Jessica to help her practice learning how to move her mouth and tongue and ask for what she needed and wanted. An occupational therapist helped Jessica learn to feed herself and other age-appropriate self-sufficiency skills. A physical therapist also came in to help Jessica. Emma may have been embarrassed at first that her daughter was in a special education school, but after a year, Emma realized it was the best thing for her. While Jessica still was a little behind other kids of her age, at the end of kindergarten, she was able to attend a non-special education school. Stay-at-home dad Chris knew many of the other fathers made fun of him. He was pretty sure some of the mothers did too. He was the president of the Parent-Teacher Association at his daughter's school. He organized all the bake sales, book sales, and met with the school principal regularly to share concerns he heard from other parents. This is not why parents made fun of him. Other parents made fun of him because this was all he did. Chris was a stay-at-home dad. His wife Maureen had a demanding full-time job working for an investment bank. She made an excellent salary, but the job meant going in early and coming home late. Chris was never good at holding a regular job. He got bored easily. He'd rather focus on his daughter and what was going on at her school. He became the main caregiver. Chris handled all of the household duties. He took his daughter to and from school. He did all the grocery shopping and cooked all the meals. He cleaned the house and helped his daughter with her homework. Everyone in the neighborhood called Chris Mr. Mom. There were other names Chris heard people calling him, like house husband and house spouse. Chris didn't mind his role at all. He felt secure as a man. He didn't believe that a woman's place was in the home. He was glad that his wife loved her job and worked hard. He worked hard, too. He just didn't get a salary like Maureen did. He was happy being paid the love and appreciation from his family. Sometimes Chris felt lonely, though, when he took his daughter to the park. There were no other dads around. He felt strange talking to the mothers. He didn't want them to think he was hitting on them or trying to pick them up. A time for family. December is truly a special time. People start putting up their Christmas decorations and lights outside their homes. Christmas is wonderful because family members from far away come to visit. We eat, drink, and talk about how our lives are going. One of my favorite things to do when my family comes over to visit is go for a ride in my dad's car and see all the houses with their Christmas lights on. Last year, my dad told us that he had seen a neighborhood with the whole block filled with houses with lights. We decided to go see them. The whole family crammed into 2 cars. We drove for about 40 minutes. When we got there, our faces lit up with joy at the sight of all the lights. My cousins decided that they wanted to walk outside and watch the lights. We all got out and started walking, but when it was time to go back home, we didn't notice that my youngest brother was not in the car. He had separated from the family and went to see a house all the way at the end. No one noticed, and we left him there for an hour. He knocked on the house that he went to see and told the people that lived there what had happened. He knew my cell phone number, and so he called me. We were about to arrive at my house when I got the call. I told my dad, and he nearly crashed the car because he got so scared. We dropped everyone off, and I decided to go with my dad to pick up my brother. When we arrived at the house, my brother was sitting on the couch watching television with the children that lived there and drinking hot chocolate. My dad hugged him and said sorry. The people who lived there said that it was fine that their children liked my brother because he was funny. They said he could come back anytime. I was relieved nothing had happened to my brother. Shopping on Black Friday, Janice was one of those people that loved getting up early. For the Black Friday sale stores have after Thanksgiving Day. She loved going to her favorite stores to see what she could get on sale. A friend told her that her favorite store was going to have an amazing sale. They were going to sell an 60-inch television for $300. Janice wanted to make sure she was there early. She went to the store during the night and set up a tent to sleep overnight. Janice noticed that no one else had showed up when she was getting her tent ready, but she didn't care. She loved being there. She was so excited about the sales that she couldn't get any sleep. At around 3:30 a.m., she finally fell asleep. She set the alarm on her phone to wake her up at 6 a.m., but because she left her music playing when she fell asleep, her phone ran out of battery. At around 8 a.m., a man who worked at the store came out and woke Janice up. She was surprised and asked him what time it was. He said it was 8 a.m., and she couldn't believe it. She went into the store and left her tent behind. She wanted to see if they still had the televisions. Janice saw that they didn't. People started looking at her because her hair was a mess. She felt embarrassed and went back to get her stuff. While she was going back home, she noticed another store that was open. She decided to go in and was surprised to see that they had the television she wanted. It was $500 instead of $300. She bought the television and asked one of the workers if they could take it out to her truck. She went home and asked her brother to help her move the television. Once she got the television into her home, she climbed into bed and fell asleep. Vinyl hunting Adrian loves to collect vinyl records. He got his first record from his grandpa. It was a record of Louis Armstrong. His grandpa even gave him a record player to play his records. The only thing Adrian didn't like was that he lived in a small town, so there weren't any stores that sold records. His brother told him to try looking on Craigslist. Adrian looked on Craigslist for people who were selling records of his favorite bands. He had to look for sellers in the nearest city and found one. His brother went into the city every week. Adrian asked his brother if he could go with him next time. His brother said yes. The person he found was selling his whole record collection for $200. Adrian was excited and took out the money he had been saving. Adrian's brother told him he had read about bad stuff happening to people over Craigslist. They emailed the guy that was selling the records and told him to meet at a Starbucks. When Adrian and his brother got there, they saw the guy outside of the Starbucks drinking a coffee. He had a box of records with him. The guy told him that it actually wasn't his collection. It belonged to his brother who had passed away. He wanted to sell it to someone who would appreciate them and listen to them every day like his brother once had. Adrian said that he would play one record a day. When Adrian got into his brother's car, he started looking through the records. He saw a copy of Abbey Road by the Beatles and was happy when he took the record out. He couldn't believe what he saw. It was autographed by all four members of the band. No-hitter Rocky was a big baseball fan. He lived in Philadelphia, but was originally from Los Angeles. He made sure to go watch the Dodgers every time they played the Phillies. Rocky will never forget the last game he saw at Citizens Bank Ballpark, which is where the Phillies play. It started off as a normal game for Rocky. He sat out in the stands with his girlfriend. He was fully dressed as a Dodgers fan. He had a Dodgers hat, jersey, and shirt. As the game came to the 7th inning, which is the 7th inning stretch and everyone starts singing "Take Me Out to the Ballpark," he noticed that the Dodgers pitcher Josh Beckett had been pitching a no-hitter. A no-hitter is when a pitcher doesn't allow a player on the other team to get a hit. Rocky got excited because he never would have thought he would see a no-hitter, especially the Dodgers pitch a no-hitter. Rocky was holding on to his beer, but he wasn't drinking it. He was watching the baseball game very closely. His girlfriend would talk, but he wouldn't listen. As Beckett threw the final pitch, Rocky held his breath. He saw that it was a strike and jumped out of his chair. He even spilled some of his beer on his girlfriend, but she didn't care. She was happy as well. Rocky was thrilled. He started yelling loudly. He celebrated with other Dodger fans that were there and drank the rest of his beer. When he got home, Rocky turned on the television. He put the highlights of the game on ESPN and saw that he had come out on television. His girlfriend saw it and was excited. It was the best ending to the best baseball game he had ever been to. No-hitter Rocky was a big baseball fan. He lived in Philadelphia, but was originally from Los Angeles. He made sure to go watch the Dodgers every time they played the Phillies. Rocky will never forget the last game he saw at Citizens Bank Ballpark, which is where the Phillies play. It started off as a normal game for Rocky. He sat out in the stands with his girlfriend. He was fully dressed as a Dodgers fan. He had a Dodgers hat, jersey, and shirt. As the game came to the 7th inning, which is the 7th inning stretch, and everyone starts singing "Take Me Out to the Ballpark," he noticed that the Dodgers pitcher Josh Beckett had been pitching a no-hitter. A no-hitter is when a pitcher doesn't allow a player on the other team to get a hit. Rocky got excited because he never would have thought he would see a no-hitter, especially the Dodgers pitch a no-hitter. Rocky was holding on to his beer, but he wasn't drinking it. He was watching the baseball game very closely. His girlfriend would talk, but he wouldn't listen. As Beckett threw the final pitch, Rocky held his breath. He saw that it was a strike and jumped out of his chair. He even spilled some of his beer on his girlfriend, but she didn't care. She was happy as well. Rocky was thrilled. He started yelling loudly. He celebrated with other Dodger fans that were there and drank the rest of his beer. When he got home, Rocky turned on the television. He put the highlights of the game on ESPN and saw that he had come out on television. His girlfriend saw it and was excited. It was the best ending to the best baseball game he had ever been to. Helping the needy age doesn't matter when it comes to helping out the needy. Shane is a 9-year-old boy that loves to help out. During a school field trip, Shane's class went to visit a warehouse where people donate food and clothes for the homeless. Shane was inspired by the workers he saw there. When he got home, he told his mom all about his field trip. Shane told his mom that he wanted to go help out. A week later, Shane's mom told him the good news. They were going to help out at a local kitchen that gave food to the homeless. Shane got excited. He got his coat and shoes. As Shane and his mom were getting to the local kitchen, Shane saw how all the homeless people were living. He saw the tents in the street and how some people didn't even have shoes. He got sad and told his mom that he was going to make sure everyone had shoes, food, and blankets. When they got inside, the manager of the kitchen thanked Shane and his mom for coming down to help. They started serving food to the homeless, and everyone that passed by thanked Shane for coming down to help. Shane felt safe and started talking to the homeless people. He told them that he wanted to help them. When they finished, Shane didn't want to leave, but they had to. Helping the needy age doesn't matter when it comes to helping out the needy. Shane is a 9-year-old boy that loves to help out. During a school field trip, Shane's class went to visit a warehouse where people donate food and clothes for the homeless. Shane was inspired by the workers he saw there. When he got home, he told his mom all about his field trip. Shane told his mom that he wanted to go help out. A week later, Shane's mom told him the good news. They were going to help out at a local kitchen that gave food to the homeless. Shane got excited. He got his coat and shoes. As Shane and his mom were getting to the local kitchen, Shane saw how all the homeless people were living. He saw the tents in the street and how some people didn't even have shoes. He got sad and told his mom that he was going to make sure everyone had shoes, food, and blankets. When they got inside, the manager of the kitchen thanked Shane and his mom for coming down to help. They started serving food to the homeless, and everyone that passed by thanked Shane for coming down to help. Shane felt safe and started talking to the homeless people. He told them that he wanted to help them. When they finished, Shane didn't want to leave, but they had to. A visit to Statue of Liberty. It has always been a dream of mine to visit New York. My parents always talked about going to New York, but we never went. I loved a lot of things about New York, but one thing that I really wanted to see was the Statue of Liberty. My parents aren't from the United States, but I was born here. They saw the Statue of Liberty as something more. not just as something people wanted to go see and take pictures of. My parents never saw the Statue of Liberty because we lived in Texas. They crossed the border and longed to see the Statue of Liberty with their own eyes, but never got the chance. I decided that I was going to fulfill their dream. I finally saved enough money for a plane ticket and went to stay with a friend that I had met at home, but now in New York. We talked over the internet and she told me that if I ever got the chance to go to New York, I could stay with her. I called her the day I got my plane ticket. "Guess who's going to New York?" I said. She started yelling and saying that it was going to be a lot of fun. I told her that my first stop had to be the Statue of Liberty. She told me that she couldn't wait. When I got out of the plane, I couldn't believe how cold it was. I got my luggage and met my friend outside of the airport. I hugged her and we got a taxi to take us to her home. When we got to her house, she showed me her room and told me we would be leaving for the Statue of Liberty in an hour. I couldn't believe the Statue of Liberty was right before my eyes. We got a taxi and went to see the Statue of Liberty. I took a shower and put on to sweaters. It took a while, but we finally got to the island. I started crying and felt my parents were right here with me. I always felt like a foreigner in this country even though I was born here. Now I understood why they wanted to visit the Statue of Liberty so much. A homeless man, there is a saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Meaning, I might not like something and throw it away, and then someone might love it and take it. I remember seeing a homeless guy searching trash cans looking for something he could sell. I asked him why he did that. He looked at me and said one man's trash is another man's treasure, which I didn't understand at that time. In fact, he was collecting stuff he needed not only to sell, but stuff he needed to make his home. This man lived in the park by my house. No one really bothered him because he was respectful and would clean up after himself. I went running in the park one day and saw him putting together a bed with stuff he had collected from the trash. He always looked for clean stuff. If it had food trash on it, he wouldn't take it. I went back to my car and took a blanket to him. He saw it and thanked me. I remember one day the police were bothering him because they had to take away his stuff. The members of the neighborhood went to the police and told them that he wasn't hurting anybody by being there. The homeless man looked at everyone and thanked them, but told the police to take his home away if they had to. "I know you guys are just doing your job. Go ahead," he said. When the police heard him say that, they decided to leave him alone. He has been there for a couple of years now. He has even started planting a garden outside by the football field. People often go and give him food and other items he might need. He has made trash into his treasure. A homeless man, there is a saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Meaning, I might not like something and throw it away, and then someone might love it and take it. I remember seeing a homeless guy searching trash cans looking for something he could sell. He looked at me and said one man's trash is another man's treasure, which I didn't understand at that time. I asked him why he did that. In fact, he was collecting stuff he needed not only to sell, but stuff he needed to make his home. This man lived in the park by my house. No one really bothered him because he was respectful and would clean up after himself. I went running in the park one day and saw him putting together a bed with stuff he had collected from the trash. He always looked for clean stuff. If it had food trash on it, he wouldn't take it. I went back to my car and took a blanket to him. He saw it and thanked me. I remember one day the police were bothering him because they had to take away his stuff. The members of the neighborhood went to the police and told them that he wasn't hurting anybody by being there. The homeless man looked at everyone and thanked them, but told the police to take his home away if they had to. He has even started planting a garden outside by the football field. "I know you guys are just doing your job. Go ahead," he said. When the police heard him say that, they decided to leave him alone. He has been there for a couple of years now. People often go and give him food and other items he might need. He has made trash into his treasure.
Being charged with arson, Carl was just 15 when he was charged with arson. He snuck into his high school with a friend and lit the auditorium curtains on fire. They thought they would have gotten away with it, but the store across the street from the school had a camera that saw Carl and his friend come out of the school. The police caught Carl and his friend while they were eating at a restaurant that was next to the high school. They were taken to jail. Carl admitted to burning down the auditorium and got sentenced for 10 years in prison. His friend got the same. The judge asked them why they did it, and Carl said, "Because we were bored and we didn't like the school." News reporters were at the school. They wanted to talk to the parents who were at this school, talking to the police and the principal. Carl's father came out first and was on his way to the police station when a news reporter asked him about the situation. He said, "My son just lost his childhood, and he will never get that back." Carl was never a bad child, but he started acting up when he got to high school. His mom couldn't believe what he had done. People make mistakes, and Carl's mistake is going to cost him a lot. The principal said that the school will be working hard to get the auditorium rebuilt, but it will take a couple of years. The school says that it will cost $1 million to rebuild the auditorium. According to his parents, Carl said that he wishes he could take it all back and that it was a stupid mistake.
A baby girl, my mom was pregnant with her second child. I was happy because I was going to be a big brother. My dad and mom told me that it was going to be a boy. I was excited because that meant I could boss him around and tell him to do my chores. She told all her friends that she was having a boy. Her friends all gave her their extra boy clothes that their sons had used, and my mom loved it. My dad was busy working on the crib for the baby. He painted it blue and put a blanket with race cars inside. But after my mom had the baby, my dad came out with a confused look on his face. When my mom went into the hospital, my dad was excited and jumping up and down. I asked him what was wrong, if the baby was okay. He looked at me and said yes, but that the baby was actually a girl. My grandma looked at him and smacked him in the head. She said, "That's wonderful news. Don't look so depressed." My dad laughed and said, "No, I'm not depressed. I'm just confused." For the first 3 months of her life, my sister looked like a boy. She wore nothing but boys' clothes because that's all my parents had gotten for her. I took a lot of pictures so I could tell her later that she was actually a boy. But an accident happened that changed her into a girl. My mom deleted all my photos because it was mean. I'll never forget the look on my dad's face when he came out of the delivery room. He looked like he was trying to solve a big math problem in his head. It was like he was trying to count from 1 to 1,000,000. Luckily, my grandma slapped it out of him. An Easter bunny, Gabriel loved working as a waiter. He loved going to work during holidays like Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Easter. When there was work during holidays, it usually meant there would be a big tip in his check. He was very friendly with the people, and everyone liked working with him. The restaurant where he worked was doing a special brunch for Easter this year. Gabriel's boss, Jackie, called him to see if he could work. Gabriel said yes. When Gabriel showed up, he saw a giant Easter bunny walking around the restaurant. He had always wanted to wear a costume and walk around talking to people. He started chuckling to himself. As people started showing up, he noticed that the Easter bunny wasn't coming out to greet the people. Gabriel had a job to do, though. He started cleaning the tables he was assigned. When he finished, he went to take his break. While he was eating, Jackie went up to Gabriel and said, "I think we need you to take over as the Easter bunny. Would you be willing to do that?" Gabriel said of course, because he didn't want to let down the boss, but also because he secretly wanted to do it. As he walked out fully dressed like the Easter bunny, he saw children lining up to take pictures with him. He walked over and took pictures with everyone that was in line. There was a little train for the children outside in the garden. After he took the pictures, he decided to go on the train and ride it with the children. The children were asking him if he was a real Easter bunny and if he had been to Disneyland. Gabriel nodded his head. After he got off the train, he walked around the restaurant and started dancing in the restaurant. People started to applaud as they ate. It was the first time Gabriel ever dressed up as the Easter bunny, but he loved every second of it. The most beautiful girl in the world, Karen and Jack, had been trying to have a child for many years. With no success, All that changed one day when they received the greatest gift in the world. That day, nearly 1 year ago, they had a healthy baby girl. They named her Julie, and it was the happiest day of their lives. Karen loves to dress Julie up in pretty pastel colors complete with bows and ribbons. Karen thinks she's the most beautiful girl in the world. The other day, the small family went shopping, and all of a sudden, Karen let out a loud scream. Oh my God! Jack ran over thinking something had gone wrong. What's the matter? He asked. Nothing, she answered. Look at this adorable outfit. It's perfect for little Julie, she said. Jack got a little upset about this. He was running toward Karen thinking she had fallen or that something had happened to Julie, but all that happened is that she found a pretty blue dress for their baby girl. Shopping malls in the United States are all over the country. Some are very large, but most of them have anywhere between 50 to 100 shops each. They are places people go to eat and shop, or go to see a movie, or just hang out with friends. American teenagers love these places, especially in Los Angeles when it gets very warm. The kids go there to cool off. It was no surprise Karen wanted to go there to buy little Julie her dress. If shoppers don't find what they are looking for in one shop, there's always another one close by at a shopping mall. Karen kept talking about how perfect the outfit she found was, and that she absolutely had to find the right shoes to go with it. Of course she did find those shoes, and that made her very happy, and Jack too. Julie is going to look so pretty in her new outfit. Josh's first girlfriend. This is how Josh met his first girlfriend. He was 12 years old and in the 7th grade. He had known Diana since she was a little girl, but he was shy and never talked to her. She was very pretty, and Josh was afraid to say anything to her because he thought she wouldn't like him. Josh had no self-confidence when he was a kid. He finally got the courage to talk to her one April day. The school was right on a busy street, so a crossing guard helped students cross to the other side. The guard carried a sign over his head that said stop so that cars would not hit anyone. The rule was that no one could cross the street without the guard, so everyone always waited. One day Josh got to the corner and the crossing guard was gone, so he decided to cross the street alone. That's when he heard, "Hey, you're not supposed to cross the street alone." It was the crossing guard. Josh didn't see him because the guard was behind a bush tying his shoes. Josh was so scared. From that day on, he decided to go all the way around the block to avoid seeing the guard. He knew the guard would report him to the school. What happened next was something he could not believe. It turned out Diana went around the block too, but Josh didn't know that then. He accidentally ran into her one day and they started to talk. One thing led to another, and soon Josh was looking forward to going home the long way. They started walking together, and Josh discovered Diana was just as shy as he was. They walked and talked every day and began liking each other. Soon they began telling everyone that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. This just shows how something good could come from something bad. Hide and seek. One of the best games children play in America is hide and seek. You didn't need anything to play, and you could play for hours without getting bored. Another great thing about hide and seek is that anyone could play, boys, girls, young, and old. Hide and seek was great. All you needed was a little imagination and a sense of adventure. The way the game is played is simple. I remember the first time I played. I came up to some of my brother's friends who were playing in the neighborhood. "Hey, what are you guys playing?" I asked. "We are playing hide and seek," said Robert, my brother's best friend. "Can I play?" I asked, even though I didn't really know the rules. After a while, the boys let me play. The object of the game is to hide from one of the players. This person closes his eyes and counts to 10 out loud to start the game. While he or she is counting, the rest of the kids run to find a hiding place. Hiding places can be anywhere. Behind cars or in the bushes, just about anywhere. It was Robert's turn. When he had counted 10, he yelled, "Ready or not, here I come." Whoever is the first person found becomes it, and it's their turn to count. I thought I had the best hiding place ever. I was in the bushes near my house. I could see through the leaves everything Robert was doing, and I knew he was getting close to finding David, another one of my friends. I was overjoyed that I wasn't going to be the first one found. I had proven myself to everybody who said I was too young to play when all of a sudden a mouse ran over my foot. I jumped and screamed out of the bushes and was the first one found. The next thing I knew, I was counting out loud and trying to find my friends. A night at the drive-in many years ago. One of the best ways to spend a Saturday night with your girlfriend was to take her to the drive-in. Drive-in theaters were first opened in Southern California because of the car culture. That exists here. People could go see a movie in the comfort and privacy of their own car. I remember the first time I went to a drive-in. I was 18 years old and was dating my future wife, Caroline. We went on a double date with my best friend, Alfred, and his girl, Jeannie. The drive-in we visited that night was called the Starlight. It was close to home, and it had the best sound system of all the drive-ins. We went to see Forrest Gump that night, mainly because Carol wanted to see it. I really didn't know anything about the movie, but I did want to see something. It also had a huge screen. I heard it is a great movie, she said. Forrest Gump was indeed one of the best movies ever made. It had everything: humor, drama, tragedy, and triumph. It is a great film. Watching it that night under the stars with Carol on my arm was the greatest night. I tell you, babe, I was wrong about this movie. I really liked it, I said. Alfred and Jeannie were busy kissing in the back seat, which is another advantage of going to a drive-in. She just smiled and gave me a hug. Those old drive-ins were around for decades. But soon after Forrest Gump came out, many of them started closing. They closed because of the new multiplex theaters popping up all over the country. People had a choice of many films to watch at those theaters, and soon the drive-in was gone. In Los Angeles, there is only one remaining drive-in I know of, the Vineland. There might be more, but I don't know where. It is sad to see them go, but the memories are still with me. Hello, Dolly. Hello, Dolly is one of the classic American plays. It was first shown in New York City in 1964 and won 10 Tony Awards. The Tony Awards are live theater's version of the Oscars. When I was in high school, our theater department decided to put on our version of Hello, Dolly, and I just had to get involved. I wasn't an actor, but I was hoping there was something I could do. So I went to the director and asked him if he needed help. To my surprise, he said yes. The director's name was Michael Thomas. I almost screamed in delight when he said I could be a part of the play. Oh, my God, I said. I would love to be a stagehand. Are you kidding me? A stagehand is someone who moves all the props and background in between acts. It is precision work that takes coordination between several people. I loved working in the wings, which is what the backstage is called in theater lingo. The stage manager is the person who runs the backstage during a play, and the job carries a lot of responsibility. My first stage manager was a cool guy who liked me a lot, so I got the best assignments. Hey, George, how would you like to man the lighting? He asked, and I jumped at the opportunity. That was how I got put in charge of the lighting for one of the best plays ever written, XU. Bet, boss, I responded. You bet, boss, I responded. That was how I got put in charge of the lighting for one of the best plays ever written. Even though this was just a high school production, we played to packed houses almost every night we were on. I did such a great job that when the theater department decided to put on West Side Story the next semester, they asked me if I wanted to join the team. It was such an honor to be selected, so of course my answer was yes. Dodgers versus Giants, one of the greatest American traditions, is the game of baseball. Living in Los Angeles has given me the chance to watch one of the oldest baseball teams. In the history of the game, the Dodgers, the team came into existence in New York City in the 1880s when they were known by several names. Until 1956, the Dodgers played in Brooklyn, New York, but in 1957, the team moved west to Los Angeles, and it has played there ever since. I recently asked my wife Josie if she wanted to go to a game one night, and of course she said yes. Why wouldn't I want to go? The weather is great and the stadium is beautiful. Besides, I think we need a break in our routine, she said. You're absolutely right, baby. Let's go, I said. We were off to Dodger Stadium, which is nestled in the hills just north of downtown LA, in a neighborhood called Chavez Ravine. Even though it is the third oldest stadium in the country, it is still beautiful. Wow. This place never gets old, I said as we got to our seats. Josie agreed. It was a perfect night for a ball game. The temperature was in the low 70s and it was a clear, breezy night. The Dodgers were playing the Giants that night. The two teams have been playing each other for about 100 years, ever since both teams were in New York. The Giants moved the same year the Dodgers did, only they moved up north to San Francisco. That didn't stop the rivalry, though. The teams hate each other today as much as they did back in New York. The best part of the night was that the Dodgers won, so I had a couple of Dodger dogs. I don't know what they do to these hot dogs, but they are delicious, I told Josie. She wiped some mustard off her face and said, absolutely. Halloween costume party, did you get your costume done last night? I asked my girlfriend Audrey in the early morning of October 31st. Of course, it was ready. But you're not going to see it. Until tonight, she said. That was a real disappointment. I had been looking forward to seeing her. LATEST Halloween creation. Audrey is a fine seamstress. And every year she makes the best costumes for the Halloween parties we try to attend. On the other hand, I usually just put some old rags on and go as a hobo or a pirate, or something lame like that, but not Audrey. She goes all out. Last year, she went as a beautiful witch complete with a pointy hat and witch's broom. She looked beautiful. The Halloween tradition is very old in the United States. No one really knows how it was first celebrated, but it did come from somewhere in Europe. It was originally called All Hallows' Eve and celebrated on last day of October. It precedes All Hallows' Day, which is a day to honor dead relatives. Today, it means parties for the adults and trick-or-treating for the kids. Trick-or-treating is where kids also dress up in costumes and go door to door to get candy treats. It's a whole lot of fun. Some people say Halloween is a Welsh or Celtic tradition, while others say its roots are Christian, but it doesn't really matter anymore. We just like to get dressed up like fools, go to parties, and eat lots of candy. Audrey finally showed up at my door. She was strikingly beautiful. She was dressed as a fairy princess and was glowing in her white gown. You look amazing, I told her. She just laughed and said, I know, and tapped me with her wand. The Coke bottles when I was 13 years old, I loved playing the drums. I guess banging on the drums gave me an emotional outlet for a very troubled time in my youth. When you're 13, everything seems to come at you from all directions. The drums helped me cope with being a teenager. One day, I called my friend Rudy on the phone. Rudy loved playing around with his guitar. Neither one of us had ever taken music lessons, but we loved our instruments. Hey Rudy, why don't you come over? We can play for a while, I suggested. If it's okay with you, I'll bring my cousin Bobby with me. No problem, man. You're really rock on that bass, Bobby, I told him. He plays the bass guitar. I told him that would be great and waited for them to arrive. Bobby didn't just play the bass, he jammed at it. He said he had been playing for years and wanted to form a band. We all looked at each other and it hit us like a bolt of lightning. We can do this, Rudy and I said at the same time. All we need is a vocalist, I said, to which Bobby chirped, I can do that, too. That was the beginning of the best rock and roll band ever. The Coke bottles. Of course, that was an exaggeration, but it turned out we were pretty good for a bunch of novices. The three of us began meeting at my place every week to practice playing together. And to bounce song ideas off each other, Bobby could actually sing, with Rudy and me putting in. All those hours of practice, we got pretty good. We got so good that we played at a couple of parties and at a free concert in the Park Festival. About a year later. That was as far as we got, though. Rudy joined the Army the following year. Bobby and I were never able to find another lead guitarist. So the greatest rock and roll band, the Coke bottles, never made it big, but that was okay with me. We had our day in the sun. Going to college 2 years ago, I graduated from high school. My father, mother, and sisters all came to see me walk up the stage to receive my diploma. Most of my extended family was there too, including my aunts and uncles and some of my best friends. To my surprise, my friend Eddie, who graduated from the same school the year before, came up to congratulate me as soon as the ceremony was over. "Hey, feels great, doesn't it?" said Eddie. "It sure does," I responded excitedly. Eddie was like a big brother to me. He joined the Navy after graduation. Now that I was out of high school, he came back specifically to talk to me about my plans. I had no idea he was coming because he wanted it to be a surprise, and it sure was. "Okay, now that you're out of high school, what are you going to do with your life?" he asked. To tell the truth, I didn't have a clue. Most of my classmates knew exactly where they wanted to go to college or if they were going to join the military. Some of them were like me, clueless. No one had ever been interested enough in me to try to give me some guidance except Eddie. He told me about college and I should consider going to a community college. Since I hadn't applied to a 4-year university, I was very interested but confused. "You never went to college, Eddie. How do you know it's the right thing to do?" I asked. Eddie just smiled and said he just knew and that I needed to trust him on this one. Since I trusted him like a brother, I took his advice and enrolled in a community college. It's been quite an experience. I must admit, Eddie was right. I will be transferring to UCLA next semester, and things are looking up for me. I owe it all to my big brother, Eddie. Driving up Pacific Coast Highway living in Southern California has its advantages. One of those advantages is living so near the mighty Pacific Ocean. It is the largest ocean in the world, big, blue, and beautiful. One of my favorite pastimes when I was growing up was taking a long drive up Pacific Coast Highway. It is a beautiful drive, winding lazily in and out of sight of the sea, and going up hills and down coastal valleys. For first-time cruisers, it could be breathtaking. One lazy Saturday, I was a bit bored, so I called my girlfriend, who was studying for her English test on the coming Monday, to see if she wanted to go for a ride. "Hey Sheila, want to go for a cruise?" She hemmed and hawed for a while before finally agreeing to go with me. "Where are we going?" she asked, but I wanted it to be a surprise. She had been hitting the books pretty hard lately because of her upcoming midterm exams. I figured she needed a break, and so did I. We started driving. Soon we were going through the Santa Monica Tunnel. This tunnel is especially nice. When you enter it, you have no clue what is waiting at the other end. As soon as the exit comes into view, the ocean, in all its glory, appears right before your eyes. Sheila was instantly delighted. She turned to me after a while and said, "Thanks, baby. I really needed this." I said, "Me too, babe." We talked for what seemed like hours. After that, we went up and down, left and right, with the ocean as our companion. We ended up in Santa Barbara, a coastal town about 140 miles north of Los Angeles. It was getting late, so we decided to stay for the night. Santa Barbara is a college town, so it's easy to find affordable rooms to spend the night. That was one of the best nights of my young life. Mary, Tom, and Buddy One. Mary was a girl with long brown hair and pretty eyes. Every evening she would take her dog out for a walk. Mary's dog was a beagle. She had named him Buddy because he was so friendly to everybody he met. Buddy never barked or bit anyone when Mary took him out on his walks. Buddy did not even flinch at the sight of cats and other dogs. He truly was a buddy to all. One night, as Mary was walking Buddy, something unexpected occurred. For the first time in his life, Buddy became aggravated. "What's the matter, Buddy?" Mary asked. Buddy replied only in barks, as if he was trying to communicate back. All of a sudden, the wind grew still and the air became cold. Mary decided to turn round and head back home. But before she could, a raspy voice called out her name. Mary right away turned around and yelled, "Who's there?" Buddy had stopped barking. A boy stepped forward from the shadows and slowly revealed his identity. "Tom, is that you?" Mary asked the timid boy, who was now in plain sight. Tom was looking down at the floor with his hand in his pockets. "What are you doing, Tom? Have you been following me?" Mary asked, slightly confused. Tom stood there embarrassed and slowly started talking. "I'm sorry I snuck up on you. I didn't mean to frighten you," Tom first said. Mary could tell that Tom was nervous. She also knew of the feelings Tom had for her. "It's not safe for someone like you to be walking at night all alone," Tom said. "I'm not alone. I have Buddy," Mary replied. "You should have somebody accompanying you and Buddy on nights like these," said Tom. "Would you like to tag along, Tom?" Mary asked. Tom was too struck to answer. He had been waiting for this moment to happen. Mary, Tom, and Buddy to Mary and Tom became fast friends after their nightly meet-up. Every night at 7 o'clock, Tom would pick up Mary at her house and the two would walk Buddy around the neighborhood for about an hour. Mary no longer walked Buddy alone at night and Tom no longer followed Mary. One night, as they were walking Buddy, Mary and Tom decided to grab a bite to eat because they were hungry. "Where do you want to eat?" Tom asked Mary. "Let's go to Pizza Mountain," she replied. "I don't feel like eating pizza right now," Tom said. "Do you have any suggestions?" Mary asked. "How about going back to my house? I'll cook our own food," Tom said. Mary thought this was a great idea. The two headed back to the street where they lived and thought about what to cook on the way. When they arrived, they had decided on making hamburgers. Mary wrote down a list of ingredients they were going to need to make the hamburgers. Tom went to the refrigerator and took out all the ingredients that he had. "Where are the buns?" Mary asked when she saw they were missing. "I'll run to the market and get some hamburger buns," Tom said. By the time Tom came back from the market, Mary had prepared the food. All they needed to do now was to put the food between the buns. Mary and Tom were about to take their first bites into their burgers when Buddy came in through the door wagging his tail and salivating. "I think he wants a burger," Tom said. Mary rose from her seat and made a burger for Buddy. Buddy ate the burger in one bite as soon as Mary handed it to him.